So this is the June meeting, and this time around we're making stitch markers. Here's our little craft table. Ooh, so many cute beads. So this is what we're gonna be making, a stitch marker either for crochet, so you'd put a little hook on to your yarn to hold it if you're crocheting, or on a knitting needle, just a hoop that you can like keep passing onto your hoops. You have to choose one that's like big enough to go over your needle, obviously. So we've got all of the happenings here and then beads to make it cute. If you've been watching for a while, this probably looks very similar, but we give everyone at the club a Material Girls sticker and a little one sheet that explains everything that we do. And we have the things back at this club sponsoring our drinks. Very cute, love them. I encourage the Material Girls Club to wear something that you have made. So I have this ruffle smock top, which is the free sewing pattern in the last issue of Material Girls. Link that down below. In the issue before that, there is a pattern for these scrunchies, and I have one that matches my red gingham, just in case anyone doubted that I made it. The skirt is from My Mom Made It. I added some lace to these little white socks and my red heels. And my necklace that I made in the last video, because it is so, so cute. Workshop heavy week, heading into a workshop heavy summer. So today is Sunday and it's Material Girls Club. On Tuesday, I'm gonna be back in the same room doing an upcycling workshop that's sold out, which is really exciting. It's gonna be on couching and embroidery, so I'll show you around that in like 30 seconds. Just announced a bunch of workshops over the summer, so I'm doing a yarn swap with Craft Forward. Elena is one of my friends who runs Craft Forward, and we're gonna do a yarn swap together, which will be very fun. We're gonna be tabling at a lesbian club night, Material Girls Club's launch party, some more upcycling workshops, and they haven't all even been announced yet. So I'm very, very excited for all the cool stuff we're gonna do this summer. But for today, it is a classic Material Girls Club, and I think we've got some really cute things going on. Tonight we're doing an upcycling workshop on couching and embroidery. So this is what couching is. I'm wearing my little example. You kind of embroider over pieces of like yarn or little strips of fabric to make just cool like bold lines. So I like how this one turned out. It did something a little bit more like imagery wise, but it's also super cute. I see people do like kind of squiggles and more abstract stuff. It's just like a cool way to upcycle clothes and add some color to it. So we're gonna do a workshop on that today. There's nothing new. I feel like I was just showing you this at Material Girls Club, except this time our drinks are from Dalston with their cute little pink drinks. Everyone gets a sticker and a one sheet, of course, and then embroidery hoops and scissors are a necessity. Check out the materials table. I love curating a little color scheme for all of this stuff. Sparkly embroidery thread. These are wash away pens, ribbon, just all sorts of stuff that you can couch over. So I think people will find lots of fun there. Honestly, pretty proud of how cute we make this little conference room look. It's about an hour until the workshop starts now. So Grace is over in the corner and we're gonna have some dinner and just kind of wait for people to come, because sometimes people are a little early, sometimes they're a little late. This is the second of 3 upcycling workshops. The first one was patchwork and that was super fun. So this is another one where everyone's bringing a piece of clothing to upcycle and they'll put some couching onto it. And then the last one is gonna be using yarn scraps to weave on cardboard looms. I might be the most excited for that one. I led a workshop like this last summer and I think people were pretty surprised by like how much fun it is to just get a little loom and like weave on it. So I'm excited to do that one. That's in like 2 weeks. After the upcycling workshop and I'm back in the studio, but a little recap of the night first. It went really well. It was a great crop of people and I feel like people had really inspiring, just like cute projects and things that they were adding with their couching. So I'm excited to share more about that, but little recap. We had everyone come in and then I like to start with a little warm-up activity just because like launching right into like stitching and stuff I think is a little bit intense. And also my background is in art education and I spent a summer working with young kids, like mostly under 10, teaching art, and I picked up a lot of like fun activities with those, and I think it's kind of fun to take those like playful activities that were kind of designed for kids but have adults do them, because we should all feel playful, and I think sometimes like letting ourselves do just like silly little activities like that is really a good way to like get creativity going. So I like to kind of start with that being the vibe. So we did an activity where basically the kids version of it is called Shapes Musical Chairs, and the idea is that kids would get a piece of paper and you'd tell them to draw a shape, and you can only draw one shape. So I would say like squares, and you can draw big squares, little squares, they can overlap, like whatever you want on your paper, but the shape is squares until the music stops, and then I'm gonna say a different shape and it's circles, and now you have to add circles to your drawing, and it's just kind of like an abstract like way to play around with shapes. So we did that, but instead of like, you know, moving around and having music stop and start, I just like every few minutes said to change shapes, and then I added a collaborative element to it as well. So we passed our papers to the next person, and then the instruction was to color in each other's shapes. So you could color them in, you could add different patterns to them, like basically add a different, you know, color and pattern on top of what someone else had already created, and some very cute ones came out from that. I think it's just cool to see like where different people's minds go with something like that that's like a pretty simple direction. So I like to start with activities like that, and it's fun for me to get back into a more like classroom based situation. And yeah, I'm learning a lot about like working with adults and what resonates and what doesn't, and how to like help people feel creative, because I think sometimes when I do workshops, I mean, I am in the studio like all the time, and I'm constantly thinking about fiber art and creative things, and I feel very lucky to do that. And I think sometimes when I do workshops, I need to remember that like a lot of people are coming in who might be beginners, who haven't done this before, who aren't usually doing creative things, and might feel like, oh, what if it's not good enough? So I think I'm learning a lot in doing this about like helping adults get into a creative space, because that's a difference between teaching adults and kids. Kids, you might need to do more like classroom management and like behavior management, which is a challenge, but you don't really need to encourage them to be creative. Like kids do that very naturally. And so working with adults is kind of the opposite. Like I don't need to do classroom management, which is great, but I feel like I do just want to like create spaces where people feel very comfortable trying things out and getting creative. And I know that like that's can be harder for adults who have some more like blocks up. So anyway, long-winded way of saying I like to start with a warm-up, and I've been having fun like thinking of ways to kind of take the things that I know about warming up in classrooms and like find a way to make that relevant and exciting to people who come to these adult upcycling workshops. And I did little like intro into just what materials we had and basic couching skills, and everyone got to work. Very fun. I love these just like Tuesday night things to do. I feel like I never usually have something to do on a Tuesday night, so it's exciting to like offer people a kind of fun, creative space to do it. Some people came with friends, some people came alone, so I feel like it's a good place to either like, yeah, have something to do with your friends that's not go to the pub, or, you know, come alone and meet some new people and get creative. I'm here this morning to work on the next sewing pattern for Material Girls, and it's going to be made out of this pink check fabric that I got in Paris. The idea is a Material Girl tool belt, but it's gonna be in the shape of like a prom sash. Okay, so stick with me. So think this, which I think is quite cute, going across, and then it's gonna have frills on either edge, and then there's going to be a tutorial on how to make custom utility pockets to fit the size of whatever like Material Girl materials you need on you, right? So I'm like gonna make one for my scissors and for a crochet hook, maybe like lip gloss. I think at the end I'm gonna like put a little space where I can put a drink in, because I like to have like a little fun drink with me while I work on my projects. So it's gonna wrap around, and there's gonna be 2 lobster clips here so that you can either like clip a bag on, or like pull the clip through a ball of yarn and have that hanging at the side that you can like pull off of. In my head, this is like a very cool little project, and we will see if that like actually comes to fruition. That is what we are in today to do. This is not even an opinion situation. Like, this is just objectively the best thing I've ever made. I mean, I usually feel like proud of obviously the latest thing that I've been working on, but this, when I finished, I was like, this is better than it was in my head. And I thought it was gonna be worse. I thought it was gonna be kind of like a random concept, right? But let me give you a breakdown. I made this sash and I quilted it and then put on some custom utility pockets. So when this comes out as a free pattern in Material Girls, there'll be instructions on how to obviously like cut out the sash, make it custom to your body, and then also choose like what you want to make your pockets fit, and then put those on there. There are ruffles on either side, so like it's one top piece quilted, then I inserted the ruffles in between that and the back piece on here. Okay, and then we get to the fun part where there's some more customized stuff down here. So I have these lobster clips on either side, and you can just clip on whatever. So I made this matching scrunchie, which is nice to just like have on you, right? But it also looks so cute since it's so big and fluffy. Like hanging off the side, it just looks like it's kind of meant to be a little textured embellishment anyway. I made this slime pocket that fits just a regular sized can knit because I was thinking like Material Girl tool belt, right? Like what would I want to have with me if I was sewing, and usually I like to have a little drink to sip on. But I can also swap that out for this one that I made that fits my phone knit. Cute. I'm filming this on my phone, so I can't put it in there, but like I've worn this out a few times and it's actually so nice. I feel like it's like the Material Girl version of like the Hailey Bieber phone case, right? Because she made that because all the girls need with them is their phone and their lip gloss, and now I can do that. My phone and my lip gloss fits up here, so I'm set to go, but I get a little like frill with me as well. I made that one, and the tutorial is gonna feature, you know, ways to make whatever size bag you might want to put on the bottom of it, so it can be a small one. I guess technically you could also make a pretty big bag and put like a tote bag at the end of it if you wanted to. I also think it's cute just like this, just like a sash with the two lobster clips together, and this would actually be pretty practical, like if it was actually that I put my little scissors in, or I have a pen in here now, like if I was actually making something, this would be a pretty like unobtrusive way to keep stuff on me, and it doesn't have anything like hanging off. So who's impressed? Like this is so fun. I'm just dreaming up other fabrics that I would make this in. I feel like a black one definitely needs to happen just because that'll be so versatile. I'm also thinking like denim or canvas, like something a little more structured could look quite cool too. I also want to make more so I can play around with what kind of pockets I'd put on it. So this one, I was thinking mostly about what I want to have with me when I'm making stuff. So it has space for like a seam ripper and my pens and a lip gloss. But I feel like if I was going to make one that I wear when I actually go out, it would have space for like cards here and sunglasses maybe, stuff like that. I've also been latching my keys onto this little attachment here, so I've got it figured out, but I've got lots of things left that I want to try with this pattern. Other things that I have been working on, a little digital art to show you. I'm not usually much of an illustrator, but Grace and I are going to be tabling, like having a table at this craft fair that's all queer vendors, and it's going to be before a lesbian club night called Strapped, which is so fun that they're doing like a little queer craft get together before everyone like heads in for the club night. So it's out on the street in Hagerston, and we got a table and we just get to decide like what we want to do at it. So what we're going to do is have some custom Material Girls tattoos that people can get. So obviously people can just buy the tattoos from us if they are on the market, but we're going to bring all the materials to like do them for them there as well. If you want to get like pride tattooed up and then head into the bar, you can have some new bling on you. So I've been illustrating some tattoos for that. Welcome to my Procreate. This will be like about this big, but it says Femme Lover, and then I have one that says Butch Lover. I wouldn't say this on TikTok because I feel like it would get like flagged or something. Can I say this on YouTube? Let me know in the comments, but we have a tattoo for this as well. So I wanted to use the Material Girls bubble letters that I often do just to make like a Material Girls-ified tattoo. I think those would be very cute. A little more illustration with the lesbian flag colors, some lips, and then this one I'm excited for. It's going to be long, and the idea is that if you get like 2 of them, you could wrap it around your entire arm, have like around your bicep, all of these bows, which I think would be quite cute as well. So that's my little illustration project. I'm going to be ordering the tattoo sheets for that, and I'm excited for that booth because it's kind of a new thing for us to be doing. Usually everything that Material Girls does is a workshop that already has like a concept and an audience, and people buy tickets, and this is just a free event for the community that people can come to, and they can buy stuff if they want, or they can just come and say hey and like check out the table. So we had some fun thinking about what would be like a way to share the Material Girls vibe without it being like a full-on craft workshop, and so I think some like custom tattoos, we're gonna do that. We're also gonna have lighters there to decorate. So we got these multicolored just like mini lighters, and we're gonna have gems and stickers and fun stuff so people can like pay a few pounds and then hang out and decorate a lighter. We were trying to think of like a way to get people crafting that was pretty low budget and like low commitment, since people are just gonna be walking around at this street fair. So I think that will be fun, and we'll get to like chat with people about what Material Girls is as well. We're always looking for new recruits, of course, so that is gonna be a cool new event to try out. Fiber-wise, I'm working on this cluster stitch scarf, which I think I already showed because I was working on it in Paris and I brought it to this Material Girls Club as well. It's just a great
project for stuff like that because it's the same stuff back and forth. So I feel like I can be chatty while also working on it. And when I'm at home, I just find it so relaxing. I'm a big cluster stitch fan right now. I have this beautiful little stitch marker on holding my place that Grace made me at Material Girls Club. But I'm loving this. I definitely don't have enough yarn to make it all in this color, so I might start switching colors soon to make it kind of color blocked. I think some green in there could be cute, maybe some orange. I don't know. Hopefully as it gets color blocked, it still looks as cool. There has been debate on whether I should weave in all these ends or if I should just leave them hanging, because some people think it's like cute like this, which I don't disagree with, but I like the idea, especially if I start color blocking things, to weave them in and then have a border around all the edges that is the same color to kind of bring it all together. So we'll see where I get with that, but so far really liking this with my little sparkly yarn. That has been a fun project. I'm back with another book review. I have been reading Fashionopolis, The Price of Fast Fashion and the Future of Clothes by Dana Thomas. And I picked this up because I've seen it on a lot of bookshelves in a lot of bookstores that I go to as being something that is just a good overview of the fashion industry today. And I'll say I think it like somewhat lives up to that. I do have some critiques. I will be sharing my opinions, but it is informative. I think that there are some gaps in what she talks about, but I think what's there is like very interesting and substantive information. And I will say if you do want to read it, you should read it sooner rather than later, because the last part of the book was written in 2019. And when I picked it up, I was like, oh, okay, 2019. So it's current. It's like a year ago. And I need to get a grip on time because 2019 was actually 5 years ago, half a decade. And a lot has changed since then, including a global pandemic, which is not mentioned at all in the book. And that absolutely affected the fashion industry. And it's not in here. Obviously, that's not the fault of the author. It's just that like the book is getting older. The author, this journalist who goes to a bunch of different places across the world throughout the books. Throughout all these travels, she meets a lot of different people. She goes to different factories. She talks to people who have worked to create clothes. She talks to designers. She talks to people who are making new innovative materials. Like there's a great diversity of people that you get to hear from. What I found the most interesting in the book was at the beginning, she talks about just briefly like the history of fast fashion and what different international trade laws, tariffs that did and didn't happen. Spoiler alert, the idea of fast fashion came from the guy who founded Zara, and he went from having like his own family boutique to the massive retailer that we know today because he wanted to completely change the clothing production process, and he has in just a couple of decades. So I thought hearing the history of fast fashion and the laws that surrounded it were really interesting. The reason that fast fashion happened was because companies were looking for cheaper labor. They were looking to be able to sell more and make more profit. When laws got in the way of doing that, you know, in the countries where they were founded, went to other countries. So seeing that all broken down step by step of what caused that to happen, I think is a very important story. The book starts with the author visiting various sweatshops in Southeast Asia. Some of them have better conditions than others. Some of them have abysmal conditions. Some of them she is talking to survivors of terrible fires and building collapses that have happened because of unsafe working conditions and lack of building regulations. And she talks about how terrible these situations are because people are dependent on these jobs. They're the jobs that are available, especially a lot of women get these jobs because it's the only opportunity that they have to make income outside of the home. So she talks about what it looks like to be in these factories. She talks to people who have worked there. She talks to people who own the factories and how they justify what's going on. And obviously what it comes down to is that this is terrible and it shouldn't be happening, and it's because of greed, and the labor is too cheap, it is not safe, and people are being exploited and creating way more clothing than we could possibly need. And then she moves on to talk about this concept of what she calls reshoring or right-shoring, and the rest of the book is mainly her talking to people in North America and the UK about how they offshored their work, like sent it to Southeast Asia to be produced, and now are trying to bring that industry back to the country where the company was founded. So she talks about this as a very positive thing, which to some extent, like it is for some people, it's positive for the places that it is being reshored to, especially lots of small towns in the US where people used to like all work for the Levi's factory and then all got fired at the same time when they offshored. Now Levi's is coming back, more people get jobs. It's good for the American economy, it's good for the American working class. I feel like there was a big lack of a discussion in this book about kind of like an ethical exit strategy for leaving Southeast Asian countries, because she kind of just went, saw bad conditions and was like, oh, we should stop producing stuff like this. the answer is to produce it back in the US. And even if that's true, like, yeah, it is more sustainable to make something within the same country and be able to drive it somewhere versus fly it across the world once it's been made. And I feel like there's a conversation when we talk about fast fashion and slow fashion, specifically about huge companies potentially taking their business out of Southeast Asia. Those economies have become completely reliant on Western consumerism. And if you just leave and say, well, that'll be good for us, like, we'll be able to find a cheap way to keep doing stuff in the US and it'll make more jobs in the US. Well, what about all the millions of women you were just saying have no other source of income? Like, if those companies leave, are they not just gonna go be exploited in a different job? So I think that conversation about like reshoring and right-shoring had a lot of patriotism in it and just completely ignored, like, yeah, you're gonna bring business back to the US, but like these huge Western companies have kind of like gone to Southeast Asia, exploited people, decimated economies, made them reliant on their business, and now the right thing to do is for them to just leave. Like, that seems like an unfinished conversation to me. And this is my pet peeves when it comes to talking about slow fashion and like being anti-fast fashion, was there was no critique of capitalism whatsoever. Like, every time she interviewed someone who had started an ethical business and was like, oh, they use organic dyes and they are in control of the whole production process and everyone makes $18 an hour, then she would list the company with all of its profits, and it would be like, yeah, and it works. Like, they're proving that you can do things ethically and still make a profit. They turned $10 million in their first year and they're set to turn 30 next year. Like, it was just all very much still based on this capitalistic idea that we can have constant growth, which isn't true, and we know that doesn't work, and it might be temporarily working for some of these companies, but it's not sustainable, and there was no critique of that. And I hate when anti-fast fashion literature just completely, I would say, misses the point. Like, the reason fast fashion exists is because people think they should be able to have constant growth. And if we're going to critique fast fashion, we have to critique that mindset in general. So anytime a book does that, I just think it immediately is missing the mark, because it's like, yeah, we can get creative with sustainable materials and we can, you know, grow leather out of biomaterials, and that's great, but you're still creating so much new stuff. And at some point the conversation does have to switch to like, we're gonna have to put caps on what new clothing is created. You referenced a statistic in here that said that last year, and again, that this would not actually be last year, it'd be like 6 years ago, Zara created enough clothing that every single person on the earth would get 7 new pieces just from Zara. Like, that is insane. And if you're gonna talk about the future of clothes and the future of fashion, you have to talk about laws where there are limits put on that, because there's no way, no matter what materials you're using, that is sustainable. So as I'm saying that, I guess that is actually a pretty big critique, because I like inherently don't think that was like approached in the correct way if she's not gonna talk about this failed economic system at all. But that all being said, like, I don't think there's any false or like bad information in this book. I just think, you know, if she was trying to talk about the future of fashion, anti-capitalism needs to be a part of that conversation, and it was not. On that note, in the next vlog, I'll be taking you to the last upcycling workshop in our little series. It's gonna be weaving on cute little cardboard looms. So for that, I will also take you to the yarn swap that I'm hosting with Craft Forward. So we're doing a little Material Girls Craft Forward collab, and we're gonna do a yarn swap together. First time either of us putting an event like that on, but I think that'll be very fun. I'm definitely gonna bring stuff and try to swap out for some fun new goodies. It's more books. I'm making the next issue of Material Girls, so I'll probably have some more patterns to share. If you wanna follow along and see more of what I'm making and doing and hear more book recommendations and see more fiber art stuff, make sure to hit subscribe and like down below, and I will see you next time. Have a good day.